Good evening. The Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, July 27th, 2021 will come to order. Before we begin, Clerk Jerry Vorba cannot be with us tonight due to a personal matter, and he is on a speakerphone. Jerry, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Jerry is participating and voting tonight pursuant to a Wayne County Public Health Department emergency epidemic order, which allows local governments in Wayne County to hold remote meetings or allow members of their public body to hold remote meetings. This order extends until December 31st of this year, and it allows individual public bodies within the jurisdiction of Wayne County to plan for remote, hybrid, and in-person meetings that allow for safe public access and participation in response to the rapidly changing COVID-19 environment. So, Jerry, all we need from you is to stay on the line, and when we call your name as part of roll call or in any other situation, or at least at the beginning of this meeting, you will have to state your current location, and that is required. That is required under the law. Okay, at this point, I would like the board to, I will make a motion to appoint Treasurer Clinton as the acting clerk pursuant to our board bylaws, section 6, which references MCL 42.5, subsection 2, that if the clerk is absent, then the board shall select one of its members as chair that if the clerk is absent, then the board shall select one of its members, that doesn't make sense, as acting, as temporary clerk for that meeting in accordance with MCL 42.5. So I'm going to make that motion now. All Mark has to do tonight is take the roll and then do the roll call on individual agenda items. There will be no bump in pay or status or anything, Mark, so don't let it go to your head.
Yeah, but Jerry, there's going to be a lot of changes when you come back tomorrow.
Only lasts for the duration of the meeting, everybody, so don't get excited. Okay, so I have that motion to appoint Treasurer Clinton as the temporary clerk for tonight's purposes. Is there support? Support by Trustee Monahan. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Well, Jerry, thank you. Okay then, Mark knows what to do. Denicia Terrell is also here tonight as our recording secretary, so that is a standard operating procedure for us. Denicia will continue to take notes and will prepare the minutes for this meeting as she always does. Okay, so I believe we're all set with those items, and at this point, Mark, would you take the roll?
Kurt Heisey.
Here.
Mark Clinton. Here. Chuck Kermy.
Here.
Bob Dorshevitz.
Here.
Jerry Vorba.
I'm here, and I'm in Plymouth Township.
Audrey Monahan.
Here.
And John Stewart.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Very good. Pledge of Allegiance tonight. How about Chief Tom Tidrington?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Motion made by Trustee Dorshevitz. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Monahan. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Very good. Very good. Approval of the consent agenda. Let's start. Well, let's do the approval of the minutes first from the last meeting. Any comments or questions on the minutes? Hearing none, I'll need a motion to approve the minutes under item D1.
So moved.
Motion made by Treasurer Clinton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Dorshevitz. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item D2 is the consent agenda. We have several items under the consent agenda tonight. If there are any comments or questions from board members, please feel free. Chuck?
D2A, C, and D I'd like to talk about.
Okay. Any other questions on the consent agenda? Okay, let's back up then to item D2C. This is the appointment of Zachary Funk to the Historic District Commission.
Let's do A first. You want to do A first?
Oh, you had a question on
Yeah.
A?
Which one's A?
That's
It's
the
about the,
Joy Road pathway.
Okay, I got it.
Now, Mark, we have a change on that one?
Yeah,
possible?
the second one, it's B.
okay.
There it is.
It's related.
I noted that the parcel number was incorrectly stated. Instead of ending in 000, it should end in 001.
Okay.
Okay, about where is this on Joy Road?
This is just east of Gregory Lane.
Just east of Gregory Lane?
Yes.
Bob, could you bring it up in maps? It's
Yeah, just a second.
44780 Joy Road. Or you already got it?
Yeah, I was looking at it earlier.
So it's the house at the end of that sidewalk. It's there are two houses back to back, and this is, they're going in for a lot combo. So we asked for an easement as a part of that to help extend.
They're doing a land split?
No, a lot combo, same thing, but yeah.
Oh, so they're combining two lots? All right. They didn't do this
Oh, I
a
get it.
generous action because of you asking them?
Right.
Okay. The last easement we had on McClumpha, we didn't approve it at the board. Is that required? Remember the easement we got on McClumpha? I don't remember approving it. Is it required to approve? If so, we probably need to do it.
That's true, yeah.
I thought we did. but-
Maybe we did. We
I
just need to
remember,
check.
I remember something doing
I'm
on that
almost
corner.
positive we did, but yeah, we
All right.
can double check that and go back.
I remember
and look at
having
the
quite a
agendas.
discussion about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay?
If it's a husband and wife, do you have to have both people sign it? Since there's only one signature.
I don't know who exactly is listed on it, but I know the property owner that's listed on the property is on it. It's only one owner is listed on it,
All right.
so.
Okay.
Kevin, you worked on this with Sherry Parmelchuk, right? Or at least you reviewed it.
I looked at the easement itself, yes.
Okay.
No, just so we're okay that we got everybody covered. If it's not husband and wife.
We do, I just pulled up the property owner information. It's just a single owner, and that single owner is the one who signed off on it.
Okay,
Okay, what else?
that's it?
Nothing on C and D?
No, oh, well, on that one, it's done. C, Zachary Funk. He's here.
Yes.
Will he stand up, introduce himself, and say a little bit about what his architectural philosophy is, or whatever? I don't,
Before,
just one or two sentences.
before you say anything, Zach, we do have also Wendy Harless here tonight. She is the chair of the Historic District Commission. The Historic District Commission is very unique in that in the ordinance, it does require for a licensed architect to be a member of the commission. So our former architect member had to move to a better, different job, and so we put out a call for a licensed architect, and we have an incredibly talented community here. So Zach is a licensed architect, and he came forward to volunteer his time and service to the community. So we really appreciate that, Zach, and if you want to just stand up, there he
Is
is.
he gonna come to, does he need to go over there?
Sure he can if he wants.
Also, tell us how you found us or we found you.
Please don't cross-examine him, whatever you do.
Please don't, what?
Would someone make sure the mic is on?
Hello,
Yeah, Jerry, it's on, don't worry.
my name is Zach Funk. I work at Newman Smith Architecture in Southfield. I came across the post for this, which on social media, through a coworker who had forwarded it over to me, who lives over in Canton. And I've jumped on the opportunity right away. I think preserving the history of our township is very important, and preserving what we can. So I look forward to doing that. I've done it plenty of times in my office currently. In Detroit, we're working on stuff in Corktown and Midtown, so I have some experience with historic preservation.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wendy, do you want to say anything? You don't have to. Nope.
guys hear me? Mm-hmm. Yep. So Kevin Gutowski was our architect on the HTC, but he accepted a job in San Diego. So we were sad to see him go, but wished him luck in all of his new ventures. And we're lucky to have Zach so quickly to come on board to help us out. And we look forward to working with him.
All right, thank you. Okay, that takes care of item D2C. Chuck, you had something on D as well?
Since this is a $250,000 settlement, not settlement, job, I'd like at least, shouldn't we normally bring it up as a regular item? And I wanted, because construction costs and repair and maintenance is so high, are we getting an acceptable price? This could be deferred maybe to get a lower price later in the season, or we needed some background. When you
Okay.
spend $250,000.
So let's do this. Let's move that over to the new item F1, and you can certainly request that. Okay,
Right.
so we'll do that. All right, any other questions on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I will need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion's made by Treasurer Clinton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. Mr. Treasurer, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorva.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton, yes. Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Item E is public comment, limited to 3 minutes. This will not be your only opportunity in the evening. We'll have public comment at the end of the meeting, and we also encourage public comment on individual agenda items as long as they are germane to that particular item. So is there anybody at this time? Okay, we're going to move along. So I'm going to substitute item F1 with a new item F1, or the new item, which is the CIPP bid award. We have both Jeremy here tonight and Pat Felrath, our DPW director. So Patrick, or Jeremy, do you want to just summarize what this is all about? And then we'll be open for questions.
Sure, this is the 2021 capital improvement plan. This is a CIPP lining for a handful of sanitary sewer segments. There's about 8 of them throughout the township. Very similar to what we did in 2020. In 2020, we only got we only received 1 bid. This year, we received 3 bids. Those bids were actually better from a linear foot price than we got the previous year. So overall, the prices were extremely competitive, somewhere between $238,000 for the high bid to $222,000 for the low bid. So extremely tight.
Well, how does it compare linear foot? Hold on, let me get this on. How does the price compare linear foot versus, say, 3 or 4 years ago? Because remember, last year was a big anomaly.
Right. Yeah, I think it's
The
closer.
price could have been really high last year.
Right. It's closer to 3 or 4 years ago than it is to last year.
All right. And
Just for example, the CIPP budget for this project was about $385,000 in construction, and we're at $222. So we came in, lower than expected.
okay, so there's no good reason to defer it to seek a better price.
No, I don't see.
Remember, we did that with sidewalks a few years ago,
Right.
concrete prices. Because these aren't emergency repairs.
Correct. These are not emergency repairs. These are just long-term maintenance to keep the sewers in good health.
All right.
Okay, then.
This is in a whole bunch of different neighborhoods?
Yeah, this is throughout the township. It's kind of some in the east, some in the north center, and then all the way down to Joy Road on the south end.
Okay, then, I will need a motion on the CIPP bid award. I'm assuming no public comment on this. This would be resolution number 2021-07-27-50. Mr. Treasurer, I'll need a motion from somebody.
Well, okay, either that or he can move it and I can second it.
Okay, let's do that.
Or you want me to move it and you second it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Doesn't matter, whoever can read.
I
whoever
move
wants
to
read it.
award the contract for 2021 sanitary sewer lining to Institute Forum Technologies USA in the amount of $222,026.20.
Second.
Okay, motion's made by trustee Monahan, seconded by trustee Kermy. Mr. Treasurer, please take the roll.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton, yes. Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the Western Townships Utilities Authority, WATUA, approval of the annual budget. Suzanne Reel is here. She is the finance director for WATUA. She's substituting for Aaron Sprague, who is out of town. So welcome to Plymouth Township.
Thank you.
Is that red light on in front of you?
It is. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Just talk loud.
just talk loud. Yeah.
Okay. The next page beyond this, you guys only approve a departmental budget, which is this page right here. The rest of the documentation is supporting detail. Overall, our budget is down 13% from the current fiscal year, most of which is sewage treatment charges. Our last 3 or 4 fiscal years, we've had quite a large look back, coming back from Ypsilanti. We base our rates with them on a 5-year average of flows. So on wetter years, we end up overpaying and getting some of the money back. But the reason why the lookbacks have been large was because of the GASB with their pension and OPEB costs and working that into the rate. I did work with them to lower the current fiscal year. We've decreased the rate versus last fiscal year. And now for next year's budget, we're looking at another decrease of, it's 18% down on the sewage costs, and then after accounting for our O&M and admin expenses, it's still a decrease of 13%.
Is that expected to continue over the years ahead?
I would not expect a large increase moving forward. I feel like it's bringing it back down to kind of where we should have been budgeting. It took a little bit of tweaking after exiting the Wayne County system. Most of our savings were realized in fiscal year 17 when we ceased sending flow there. Since then, though, with the GASB, with the pension and OPEB and everything, Yucca's had a hard time incorporating that and just setting their rates. So we've had large lookbacks. But I feel it's just under 6.2 million for next year. We're projecting 5.7 for the current fiscal year. So I'm comfortable pulling it down a little bit.
That's total budget? Or is that for
That's
just sewer
for
processing?
our sewage treatment costs are at 6.1, if you look on the far right column.
Get your point around?
And then our total budget is at 9.4, but about 5 years ago, we had a $14 million budget. So we're saving $5 million a year, not sending flow to Wayne County.
So having that plant expansion at Ypsilanti has paid off?
Absolutely.
Or is paying off?
Yes, absolutely.
Which we funded part of it.
Yep. Unless you guys have questions, the only other thing I really wanted to point out is after this 21-22 fiscal year, we only have one remaining debt payment. That'll be paid in January of 23, and then we're debt-free after that, so.
Including the expansion that's going on now?
The expansion that's going on now, we didn't bond for. That's being paid, Canton Township prepaid the majority of their portion of it. There's about another $1 million that'll be billed to Plymouth Township. And I believe you guys had built that into your rates so that nobody's bonding for the current project.
Correct. Okay, any other questions for Suzanne? Now, the process is then that this budget goes to the Northfield Township Board and the Canton Township Board, then they presumably approve it.
That's
and then it comes back to the WATUA Board, which is the 3 supervisors for the 3 townships, and then we would finally approve it as well at our meeting in late August.
That's correct, and it also has already been reviewed by both our finance committee, and then our board had a study session and reviewed it yesterday.
Yesterday, okay.
So, question about Ypsilanti. Their pension system, new hires, are they defined benefit or defined contribution?
I believe they are defined contribution. They've closed their defined benefit
So you're certain they've closed it?
programs.
All right.
I'm 99% certain. I will double check to make sure, but I'm pretty certain it's been closed. I think it was hires after, I'll look to be exact and send you the year that it was closed.
No sense guessing, right?
Yes.
All right, well, that's good news if they've actually closed it and new hires are defined contribution. That'll further help us over the next 50 years.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
I have when I took the tour,
Yeah.
they said they've been waiting for, I don't know, many years to get some type of authorization from us that would allow remote management of the Country Acres pump station, and they have not received it. And I don't know whether it's some internal control we have with our IT system, or it's just something we need to do. So will somebody follow up on
I'm
that?
familiar with that, and I think we provided them an answer. Jeremy, do you remember what that answer was? I know there was I thought there was some cost involved.
As far as like upgrading to like SCADA system?
They wanted access to our SCADA system so that they could monitor it. And I think we just left it at, yeah, if there's a way to make it work.
Right.
We just didn't want them to have access to our entire SCADA system, which controls our water supply.
Well, the director said he was waiting for one thing from Bob Jenks, and I don't know what it is.
Okay. We'll find out.
So-
I don't know if it was really more of an IT issue unless there was a way for us to segregate that out of our SCADA system, but that might be a Jenks question, it might be
It would improve their operation if they could do it,
yeah,
manage that Country Acres pump station remotely.
right. We just didn't want them to have access to our whole system. That was the issue, I believe. So I don't know if that's an IT fix or what, but
Yeah,
you guys were working
I can
on that.
follow up with Bob Jenks to find out exactly what the
And
issue
probably
is.
the director could explain it also of
Aaron.
Watua.
Right,
Aaron, yeah,
'Cause, yeah, Aaron knew exactly what he was allegedly looking for.
okay.
yeah, because I know we worked directly with Watua on the Country Acres pump station upgrades, because we just finished the upgrades a couple months ago.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be more efficient also with these big rains and things, you want to be right on that pump station.
Right.
No mistakes.
Okay, any other questions from board members? Anyone in the public? Very well, I will entertain a motion on this as written.
I'll do it if I can read off your sheet. I move that the Board of Trustees approve Resolution 2021-07-27-52, adopting the 2021-22 Watua budget per the recommendation of Watua.
Second.
Okay, motion's made by Treasurer Clinton, seconded by by Trustee Kermy. Mr. Treasurer, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorva.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton, yes. Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yeah.
Supervisor Heising.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Suzanne. Have a great night. Okay, item F2 is the second reading of the update to the second reading of the tree ordinance. This is before you in the term of the cover memo here. I've got Laura Haw with me tonight. We've made the changes that were requested by the board at our meeting of July 13th. Those were mostly grammar and some punctuation and some other typo items that were caught. And then we also went back and made some changes on pages 7 and 8. We amended section 98.13B, permits, plans, et cetera, to provide more clarity, intent, and remove fee requirements. Those are noted in red on your copy. And then we amended section 98.15 under enforcement to clearly reference the fee schedule for developers who remove heritage trees without permits. And then we removed section 98.13H as being overbroad and unnecessary and not in keeping with the stated intent of the board. It was a good catch by Laura, and it's really something that we do not need in this township ordinance. So those are the changes. Appreciate your support. Laura's here with questions as well as me.
Let's go back to page 7B, 98.1. I don't understand the words. Page 103 on the PDF. Okay, you got it. B, where it's lined up, heritage trees shall be replaced. And then it goes, is it for each heritage?
Heritage tree shall be replaced for each heritage tree diameter inch removed.
That makes, does that initially?
The best we could do. Heritage tree shall be replaced for each heritage tree diameter inch removed. Replace, and then you read the rest, it flows better.
Okay, so as long as it's
We
easily
know what it-
understood by the people that are going to use it.
Right.
Just seemed a little awkward, but.
Okay, anybody else on the board? Anyone in the audience? Very good. I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I move to approve the second reading of the township tree ordinance and to make the ordinance effective upon publication by the township clerk.
Motion's made by by Treasurer Clinton. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Monahan. Mr. Treasurer, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorva.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton, yes. Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes. Okay, item F3 is the tree ordinance fee schedule. We have provided this to you in the form of a resolution which incorporates the fee schedule by reference on the second page of the resolution. This is consistent with how we have done other fee schedule modifications in the past. Laura Haw has also put together the comparison table of comparable community fee schedules in the communities of Ann Arbor, Canton, Lyon Township, City of Northville, Northville Township, City of Plymouth, West Bloomfield, and ours. And if you look at that, I mean, there's nothing, it's not always a one-for-one comparison, but if you look at it, I think you would agree with Laura's assessment from earlier today that we're pretty much in the middle, if not maybe even below the average in some of the fees that are being charged by our comparable and peer communities.
You're gonna put the example up?
I had it
We're,
on,
yeah,
sorry.
we're looking for it.
Yeah, I had it on my, did something with it. Hang on a second. I gotta go back.
So while he's looking for that, the example was $3,600, correct? For 2 trees?
Correct.
Was it 24 inch and an 18 inch?
A 24 inch and a 12 inch.
12 inch, all right. We're trying to be development friendly, we're paying somebody to do development. Is that going to deter development? $3,600 to replace 2 trees? Tell me, you see people out there all the time, so I'm trying to understand where it is in the realm. That's why I asked for this chart, so we can understand where we are in the realm of competitiveness, competitiveness in the development world.
Certainly.
Trying to balance.
Chuck, is your question that you think it's too expensive and it would?
I don't know, I'm not smart enough to determine that.
Well, your question was would this, you think the amount would deter them from developing it, or they would just whack the trees because it's not enough?
I want to know whether it's a detriment. I don't know enough about that industry of development, of how much they need, how much a developer can invest per lot and still be competitive to build the kind of housing, or maybe not, is it going to chase them away? There's a shortage of housing in the area. We want more houses to be built. These are all strategic things that I don't have enough direct knowledge other than understanding a little bit about cost benefit and business, where you have to make a profit and there's usually a price point you're trying to achieve. X dollars per lot, so I can make a house, sell a house for Y dollars.
Sure. So typically when myself or trustee or supervisor Heisey, meet with potential developer, that is one of the questions that they ask And they're often surprised when we tell them, no, we don't have, a penalty or a replacement for those heritage trees, because so many other communities already do that it's pretty much mainstream at this point. And I think because the fees are lower than some of the comparison communities, we won't see much of a change. It's most important to developers when they come in that they know the costs and they can predict that, at the start of a project. They don't want to find out midway through a project. So as long as we can present, the process and the cost to them upfront, then I don't see any impact.
All right, so it'll be passed down essentially to the buyer of the house, I would think. So, all right, so you're saying it's not an issue because Plymouth Township has had a long record of negotiating with developers and making things work. And really, there aren't many large tracts with heritage trees left.
Right, and I think it's very common, not on this list, but other communities that have large open spaces that are being cleared for housing, Pittsfield Township, Novi, they also have, even steeper requirements for tree ordinance removal.
Yeah, I guess and maybe I don't have a good example of that. It would concern me if a parcel were being developed and there were a number of heritage trees and there was no other choice because the trees were right where the building had to be, and all of a sudden you got $15,000 worth of fees to take those trees down. I mean,
I think that's something that developers already plan for in today's world.
Or they try to incorporate the trees into their site plan as an amenity.
So when is the tree ordinance going to take effect? We have to publish it twice?
Yeah. No, it takes effect upon publication. I believe we only publish it once, right, Kevin?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Jerry. It's published once, and basically it'll be published as soon as it can be provided to, I believe we would have to publish it in the Observer Heritage newspapers, because it does have to be in a newspaper of general circulation.
Anecdotally, there seems to be a rush to cut down trees in anticipation of this. For example, in the Palmer Acres, where they're tearing down houses, and Green Meadows, there seems to be some tree cutting activity in preparation. So if I was a developer, I said, well, I would pull ahead the tree cutting to avoid this, which is coming.
Okay, any other questions or comments by the board? Anyone in the public?
So being very negative,
Yes, sir.
Wabasto could clear cut another 1,000 trees behind them for more parking next week.
And it's effective upon publication, so it's as soon as we can get it
If you
published.
if you beat the publication.
Theoretically, that would be my answer, yeah, as of now.
John, most of those trees in the back of Wabasto, they're not heritage trees.
Right.
They're black locust scrub, so they would pay less probably, or I don't know. For example, what would happen if they cut those black locusts? Most of them, they're under 12 inches.
Yep, and those are on the undesirable species list, so there's not a penalty for those.
Okay, so they wouldn't have to pay anything to replace. All right.
I think Wabasto is very sensitive to the community, though, and they I am sure that they would work out some kind of a community benefit for the area.
I'm prepared to vote yes.
Would you make the motion?
it's like the night before Prohibition took place.
Would you like to make the motion, Mr. Stewart?
Not
You
really.
remember that?
Okay, all right, then
Treasurer Clinton.
all right, well, I'll do it. I'll move that the Board of Trustees adopt the attached resolution, resolution number 2021-07-27-53, establishing the fee schedule for the Township Tree Ordinance to take effect upon publication of the ordinance. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second by Trustee Stewart. Mr. Treasurer, please take the roll.
Treasurer Clinton, yes. Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Clerk Vorva.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, item F4 are the agreements with the United States Homeland Security Department of Detroit for use of office space and the reimbursement of expenses at the DPW building. Chief Tom, do you want to come up or do you want to stay there?
This is fine here.
Can we hear you? Is your mic on?
It is. Testing, testing.
Yeah, I can hear him. You hear him? Okay. He's a little vague, but
A little light.
you want to try again? Just,
Testing, testing.
that's good. If
As long as they can pick them up.
there's a problem, they'll run out.
Yeah.
Okay, you're on.
Yes, I think most of the board knows what is occurring here. We're offering some office space to to a money laundering task force out of the Homeland Security Division. They conduct a wide range of investigations, including fraud-type cases, scams. I know Trustee Kermy had asked last year about what are we doing about the scams that are occurring in our community, and this is one of the types of cases that they do investigate. So what you have in front of you here today is an agreement to essentially allow the Homeland Security Task Force to occupy the currently vacant office space at DPW. We plan on assigning one of our detectives to this task force at some point. We won't be backfilling, so we're not going to increase the amount of officers that we have in our department, but we're going to, we think it's so important that we're going to assign one of our existing officers to this task force. I think there's going to be a lot of synergy between the task force and our detective bureau in terms of providing manpower when we need it on serious cases, and just the fact of having another 12 officers in our community is certainly a win-win situation. So, ready to take any questions if anybody has any questions or concerns.
And I'll just add that DPW Director Felrath has been very cooperative and is well aware of what we're doing. This is unused office space. You may recall that we've tried in the past to lease this office space for rent with little success. So this would certainly accomplish a long-awaited goal of the township. I believe it's actually one of our 2021 goals, which was to lease this space. So we're pleased that we're able to continue moving along those lines and provide the township with a greatly enhanced level of protection and support. And I want to thank the chief and for being so diligent in making this happen. I think it's a testimony to the fact that I think I was talking with some other chiefs the other day, Chief, and I was told that you may be now the longest serving police chief in Wayne County.
That's what I understand.
Yeah, so.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, it's good. It's been very good for us because I think your contacts and your stature within the community, the law enforcement community, has helped make this happen. So we're very grateful for your work on this, and also to Director Felrath for accommodating this request. We didn't really have to move around a lot of things in the DPW building. As you recall, if you've been in there lately, it's a large, open, vacant series of offices. That's where the old Community Development Department used to be. And I believe the police department was also housed there temporarily many years ago. So it's been a great team effort, and certainly appreciate your support. Any other questions for the chief?
Sorry, Chief, thank you for this, by the way. I noticed that the period of performance is only from October 1, 2021 until September 30th, 2022. And I didn't see any paragraph allowing the parties to extend that. Do you anticipate an extension?
Yeah, well, they would like to stay here long-term, so I expect that they would be making that decision yearly to extend. There's not a lot of infrastructure that we have to build, so there's not going to be, if they happen for whatever reason to move out, it's not going to be costly to the township, but we're planning this to be a very long-term project, and quite frankly, we hope to grow this task force and have other entities housed there as well. So I'm hoping it's going to be, a long-term operation, and they are too.
Thank you.
How are we handling liability? Are we okay with liability? We're covered if they have an accident out there?
We all,
MMRMA is okay?
no, we each have governmental immunity, and I know Kevin has gone through these documents with Homeland Security and made several changes, so we're very comfortable with all that.
So we're comfortable. Utilities, are they passing, we're just covering those?
We're just going to cover them, yep. And we do get reimbursed $5,000 per year as part of the agreement, and then, of course, any forfeiture funds that are available, we would share in those as well. And the potential is quite substantial for that.
5,000 is for the officer we have, right? Or is,
The 5,000 is just for our,
Incidental
just sort of
expenses.
our overhead, our incidental.
well, that more than covers utilities.
Yeah. So and it also is covering, we had to make some minor interior modifications. We had to install a wall and a door. I think we've made some other minor changes, but nothing substantial. So the 5,000 will more than cover our overhead.
So the communications they require, they're handling that? Any special IT things?
With the new technology, not only Homeland Security, but most federal agents operate off of a secure laptop, and the days where you had to run special lines and secure phones and so on are no longer in play. So they're pretty mobile, and there's very few security needs that we have to put in place in order to facilitate the housing of them there.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Then I will entertain a motion.
I'll do it.
Yep.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the reimbursement of, is that crossed out, joint operations expenses?
No, that's just a.
Okay. Joint operations expenses from the Treasury Forfeiture Fund and the office space in Plymouth Township, Michigan memoranda of understanding between Plymouth Township and the United States HSI Detroit, and authorize Police Chief Titterington to sign both on behalf of the township.
Second.
Motion's made by trustee Monahan, seconded by trustee Kermy. Mr. Treasurer, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorba.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton, yes. Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yep.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Could I just add, Mr. Supervisor, when I know every day you're reading the newspaper about cities and communities defunding their police department, and defunding happens in a lot of different ways. It's not just the financial defunding of departments, but it's the lack of support that some agencies receive from their board and from their community. And I just want to thank this board especially for the support, not only the financial support, but the support, all-around support that you always give to our police and fire department. It does not go unnoticed, and it certainly is appreciated. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item F5 is the pension and retiree healthcare funding status report. Treasurer Mark Clinton.
Thank you. Bob, yeah, would you mind pulling up that PowerPoint presentation? If you could put it into slideshow mode. Thank you. So every year, I have to submit, or we have to submit the township to the state of Michigan, basically a status report on how we're doing in terms of progress against our unfunded pension and unfunded OPEB liability. Supervisor Heisey asked me to give just a quick update of where we stand, so I thought I'd go through a few slides to do that. Not moving.
Who's that?
It worked during the test. Okay. Anytime I hear a ding, that means.
Before I could just jump to the taste, but before I did that, I thought I would give for the benefit of trustees Stewart and Monahan, some of the historical background on this, because it really started about 4 years ago or so.
Did you hit that, Mark?
What's that?
Did you just hit the button?
I did hit the button, and
It went backwards. Ah, you're hitting the wrong button.
I did not. You've got this computer upside down. So anyway, this is just for some background and historical purposes, but The definition of a legacy cost, basically legacy costs are promises that were made to our police and fire department years ago that when they retired, we would provide them with a pension, and we provide them with healthcare benefits. And those are considered legacy costs. The good news and bad news is, the good news is we no longer offer defined benefit pension plans and healthcare plans. Those went out, it was phased, but those were pretty much eliminated by the year 2013. That's the good news. The bad news is we still have to fund those things. We still have to honor those commitments that we made during those periods. When I first decided that I was going to run for this board, I spent a lot of time looking at the financials in Plymouth Township, and the legacy costs really caught my attention. And I had a suspicion that we had some issues that we should have been addressing and were not. When I did get into office and had a chance to really deep dive into the financials, that confirmed my suspicions that we were underfunded, I believe, both in pension and in our OPEB. OPEB, again, for your benefit, stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. People use retiree health care and OPEB interchangeably. So my suspicion led to a lot of discussion and eventually a decision by this board to go out to the public and ask for an increase in our millage of 1.2 mils. That ultimately was successful, and I'm going to explain some behind the reasoning why we had to do that and why it was so important. But the slides that I'm going to be showing you now are slides that I put together in 2018 when we were having town hall meetings to demonstrate to people the importance of getting this millage passed for the benefit of ultimately improving on our legacy costs, the unfunded pensions and unfunded liabilities. This is the first one I presented. And you can see it's a time graph, but it shows that our pension costs annually would be escalating at a pretty significant clip. So you can see this, how this line goes up. The reason for that is that between 2010 and 2015, we ultimately closed all of our pension accounts, right? Each individual department has a pension account, which we're no longer accepting new entrants into it, so we closed them. But as soon as you close it, you don't have all of that money coming in, so you have to change your funding model, which is why this funding model became accelerated between 2015 and 2025. So at that point, we were 65% funded. That's pretty good. But I was concerned about that rapid rate of an increase that we were going to be paying over the next 10 years. So that's the pensions. When you look at the healthcare, same type of trend, right? You can see that our healthcare over the next 20 years or so, right? That spike is going up pretty significantly per year from roughly $600,000 a year to about $1.4 million a year. That one was the one that concerned me most because we had never put anything aside for our OPEB. When you take those two slides and superimpose them on one another, you can see what the additional cost was going to be. Let me explain this graph. That line that runs across was basically our run rate as of 2018. So for us to fund our pensions and to fund our health care was costing us pretty close to $1.6 million a year. But look what happens over the next several years. That jumps from 1.6 to almost 2.8 million per year over the next 7 years. That was a liability that was staring us right in the face. That we're going to have to pay in excess of $5 million over the next 7 years just to pay our health care and our pension benefits. So that was the big elephant in the room that was facing us. So at that point, we had about a $5 million, call it a $5 million fund balance in our general fund. If we had never done anything else, in other words, if we had never hired another person if we had never given anybody a raise, if we had never bought a new ambulance or a fire truck or a piece of equipment or anything else, if we had just remained at status quo, those legacy costs would have depleted the general fund balance in about 5 years. So we were in a bad situation. This legacy cost was a huge, important thing. And us going out for a public millage and addressing it the way we did, in my opinion, was one of the most important things we did in the previous term. It wasn't just important to us, it became a very visible and important issue throughout the state. And in 2017, the state passed Public Act 202, which required all municipalities to start to focus time and attention and money on their unfunded pensions and unfunded liabilities. So I just got a couple of slides from the presentation that we were given by the state of Michigan, but in January 2017, then Governor Rick Snyder, he announced the creation of this task force, and the whole purpose was, what are we going to do about these unfunded pensions and unfunded retiree health care costs? And this was the problem that they were trying to address, right? Across all municipalities, the unfunded pension liability was pretty close to $10 billion, and the unfunded OPEB was around $9 billion. Those are some big numbers. And in many communities, right, in their effort to continue to pay these things, it was now taking over day-to-day operations and day-to-day operating budgets, right? So they're putting more money into legacy costs and less money into day-to-day operations. Now, every single community was different. Some were funded very well. Some, like ours, were at 0% for their OPEB. So you could see that the state was starting to focus time and attention into making sure that all municipalities got to basically an equal level. So Public Act 202 had the following requirements, right? First, they were going to put in an evaluation system, which is the reporting system that I was describing. They were going to create this municipal stability board, which was basically going to be the court of appeals, if you will, on whether or not our actions were approved by the state or not. Transparency requirements, all of the reporting that would be done with the state and put on our websites, and then there would be funding and actuarial requirements. I only want to focus on the evaluation system, because this is the thing that triggers whether or not you're considered to be underfunded or not. So remember these numbers, because I'm going to come back to them. But for OPEB, if you are less than 40% funded, and if your ARC ratio, and the ARC ratio is basically the actuarial minimum amount that you have to pay per year, if that divided by your government or fund revenue is greater than 12%. In other words, are you guys spending a lot of your money on paying for OPEB greater than 12%? Then you're considered to be underfunded and you have a problem. The criteria for the pension is, are you less than 60% funded, and are you spending greater than 10% of your governmental funds funding those pensions? Then you're considered to have a problem and you're flagged and you have to do something about it. Okay, well, what did you do about it? Well, and by the way, our pension fund we passed, we were greater than 65% funded, but our OPEB at 0, obviously we're flagged as being underfunded. But what do you do if you're considered underfunded? This is the process, okay? First thing you have to do is fill out this form that you fill out every year, and then the state will determine if you're underfunded or not. If you are underfunded, you have the option to apply for a waiver, which is basically provide a good argument as to why you don't have to be funded to their levels. If that fails, then you have to go and create a corrective action plan back and forth with the state that ultimately they approve. And then on an annual basis, they will monitor and you report on the status of your corrective actions, okay? So in July 25th of 2018, we submitted our report and we received notice from the state that our OPEB was underfunded. Okay, on September 5th, I applied for a waiver. I made the best excuse I could as to why we were underfunded. They came back 2 months later and said, you're denied. You have to apply for a corrective action plan. So we submitted a corrective action plan in March of 2019, and that corrective action plan was approved by the state on May 2nd, 2019. So what is involved in that corrective action plan? The first thing we did is we had to create a retiree healthcare trust. We built this trust fund through MERS. The second thing is we had to develop a funding schedule that would get us to that 40% funding level in a reasonable amount of time per the state. And then the last thing is that this corrective action plan and the funding schedule had to be approved by this board and submitted to the state. This is the funding schedule, okay? Basically, this is it. This is how simple it was. In the first year in 2019, we were going to take $1.2 million and put it into the trust fund. In the second year, $1 million, and in the 4 years after that, $250,000. And then what happens, you put it in there and you let it grow. And this particular funding schedule assumes that we would get a 3% annual rate of return. While that money is sitting in the fund growing, you can see what's happening to the liability. The liability slowly goes down. Why? Because our OPEB program has been closed, and ultimately these people will leave the system as they retire, and unfortunately as they die, and they won't need health care. So as the liability goes down and our investment in the fund goes up, eventually you're going to hit that magic 40% funding level, which per the actuarial analysis will take place in 2035. So that's the funding and the corrective action plan that we submitted with the state, and that was approved. So right now it's for the next couple of years, or the last couple of years, we've been tracking very well with that. We've been making our contributions, and the return on investment has been acceptable, and we're tracking along nicely on this plan. And then the last slide, going back to what triggers those things. So today, we're at 68.2% funding for our pension, and that ADC ratio I talked about is at 5.9%. So we're spending 5.9% of our annual budget funding our pension fund. We've already increased in 2 years from 0 to 14% funding in that OPEB. Ultimately, our goal is to get to that requirement of getting to 40%. But the interesting thing is our ratio has gone down and dipped below that 12% required. So we're still spending, it's a lot of money, right? 11.7% of our annual budget funding our retiree health care, but it's dipped below that 12% trigger. So technically, we are now in compliance with the state requirements. Now, does that mean we're not going to continue to fund that healthcare? No, we're going to continue to do it to make sure that we can get to that 40%. But if we submitted that report today, the state would say you are now technically in compliance and no longer have to file and monitor that corrective action plan.
When does the millage expire again?
Millage expires in 2035.
So could you back up to that last chart? So you marked that as the year that the millage expires.
No, I marked that as the year we hit that magical 40% number of being funded.
Okay, so what does the current millage continue to propel us to 2043, or does there have to be a renewal or a new millage?
No, there does not have to be a new millage. The new millage does 3 things. It was intended to, and it's doing 3 things. Number 1, give us the money to initially fund the OPEB trust and let it grow. And I'm going to have to back up a couple slides here. Number 2, right, it gave us all this. It gave us all this money that was required to pay the incremental pension that was going to be hitting us after the year 2018, which, as you can see, was a significant chunk of change. The third thing it allowed us to do was get to the staffing levels that we wanted to in the police and fire department, and to be able to afford the capital improvements, the equipment, the fire engines, the ambulances, et cetera. So that was the purpose of the millage, and it's being used for all three of those things. Okay?
This is,
Why does this show pension benefits, not benefits, pension payments required beyond 2027? We said that we would be done by 2027 before. Is that still the case?
Well,
That we would be done funding pension?
there's an hour-long explanation and a 30-second explanation. I'll give you the 30-second explanation. There's approaches to amortization. And a couple years ago, MERS had what was called a closed fund approach, which means they gave you 20 years, and at the end of the 20 years, it was completely paid off. They've moved to something called a layered approach. And what that means is that every single year, they start another 20 years. So, for example, 1 year, let's say we've got a $10 million unfunded liability. Okay, we're gonna pay that off in 20 years. A year goes by, and they say, bad news, our rate of return was not as good as we thought it was going to be. As a result, your liability has gone up by $100,000. They start a new line item and say that $100,000 will now be amortized over 20 years. And then the next year, they make changes in their actuarial assumptions, increase life expectancy, and say, well, now that we've changed the actuarial assumptions, your liability has gone up by $500,000. That $500,000, they now start an amortization schedule for 20 years. So you've got multiple amortization schedules that spread out and start for 20 years. So this initial liability was significantly drawn down.
Because this is combined, right?
Well, that's combined, yeah. The initial one takes place, but all those separate line items that I talked about, which are impacted by performance of the fund, changes in actuarial assumptions, those have their own individual schedules that eventually will get paid down. The way it is right now, we should be at roughly 85% funded in our pension by the year 2025, and then fully funded by the year 2040.
So they made a change, but they're being ultra conservative.
Yes.
Because returns have been much better than anticipated. And their calculation method of restarting the amortization, having all these mini amortizations, has the effect of overstating the liability.
I agree. The only thing is
they're trying to make the elephant boogie, they're trying to make the boogeyman bigger.
They also use a smoothing, so they don't take last year's rate of return, because they're trying to avoid swings. 1 year you lose 15%, the next year you make 25. They don't want to adjust our annual or our monthly payments by significant amounts, so they're taking and smoothing the rate of return over the previous 4 years, like income averaging almost, right? They're smoothing that so you don't get these wild fluctuations in what you have to pay.
I think this is really substantial because I think what it really says is that this generation of leaders in the community did not push down this liability to the next generation. And I think, we're paying it off. We're paying off the promises made. And I think that's much more substantial than it appears at first blush.
Well, the voters understood that in
Yeah.
2018 and approved it.
Yeah.
Now, this is the good news about this, right, is I think we've taken proper corrective actions. It's not a short-term fix. This fix is going to be going on for 20, 25 years. But as it stands right now, we will be able to pay our obligations for both OPEB and for pensions. Now, you can't just forget about it, right? That's why we file these annual reports, because every year things change. Actuarial assumptions change, rate of returns change. So you can take a long-term view on it, but you have to make sure that you're keeping an eye on it from an annual perspective, and make tweaks if you have to, and make sure that we can continue to fulfill that promise going on into the future.
Thank you, Mark, for
Yeah.
explaining that to us.
What happens to the communities that do not meet the thresholds and do not have workable corrective action plans? Is there, what happens?
I believe that it's a different answer for both pensions and for OPEB, right? Pensions are mandated, so the state would have to take over the pension. In terms of OPEB, you're screwed.
Well, there's no, what he's saying is pensions have a constitutional obligation. OPEB, there is no obligation. It's just goodwill that we're doing it, but there is no contract that says that you have to pay people's health benefits until they die.
The original.
I believe that's been tested and
Yeah.
has stood up, right?
The original bill, though, in the legislature called for basically an emergency manager to step in. And as we know, emergency managers have amazing powers of making cuts, imposing levies, things of that nature, going to court to impose levies. You also had the unions that were carefully watching this as well, and they also could have potentially gone to court to force a levy. We've seen that happen in Wayne County within the last, I think, with about 8 years ago, maybe more. We had a millage basically a judgment levy on the millage that
$450
to pay for the so-called Wayne County 13th check to their pensioners. So it's not without precedent, and fortunately we have chosen a really good path here, thanks to all of our efforts and to the public for recognizing it and trusting us to do the right thing. Mark, is that all you got?
That's all I have, unless there's any
Okay.
questions.
Any other questions for Mark?
I have some questions. With the growth in revenue from property taxes, this year, what do you think the multiplier, the CPI, will be? 4? 5? Maybe 4.
5 is the...
5 is the cap.
5 is the cap, yeah. I don't know. I would guess right now in the 4% range, 3.5% to 4% range, yeah.
So our revenue is growing, and with the Rescue Act and all the COVID, communities are flush with cash. So should we think about, or I'm thinking about, the administration fee or the millage to knock some of it down? I think Northville Township took their administration fee away.
Yeah, and now they're bonding for $12 million for recreation projects. So, it's like Vegas, the house always wins. And that was that administrative thing was a political stunt from our former supervisor who's running everybody's campaigns up there. And eventually, the township is going to get the money that they need to do what
So
they want.
they did take it off for 1 year only?
I think they just took it off for the 1 year. I don't know if they're going to, I doubt they'll bring it back in the next 4, but I know that they're going to be bonding, I think, $12 million for recreation.
To build facilities?
Yep, at the old psychiatric hospital site.
Are they really?
That's what Mr. Abbo told me.
And that's not, there's no vote on to pay those bonds back?
I don't know if that goes to the voters or not. I think I think they can do it internally. I'm not sure if that's going to be a bond or a note or however they're going to structure it, but I don't think it's going to go to the voters.
So on the other side, we should be doing something to lower our OPEB costs. Remember, we had attestation in here the other day, and we said we would be talking about stuff. Have we talked about anything? To lower the size over the next 50 years.
I can bring attestation back anytime. I mean, we talked about it.
Well, we said that we would have a discussion with the employees on ideas, and they said they wanted to support new ideas to reduce costs.
Well, they've already done that. We've already reduced cost without reopening the contracts. Contracts expire now in about anywhere on average from 2 to 3 years from now. I think right now with inflation running the way it is, I'm not interested really in reopening any contracts because I don't know what their wage requests would be. So we can see if the employees are willing to do anything more, but they've already done a lot. And
what about administration? Something you can't just say we are not going to, or we can't lower costs because everybody's trying to do that. especially if inflation is coming in premiums.
Well, we meet every year with our benefit coordinator, our benefit consultant, and some years are better than others. Healthcare costs are going up for everybody right now largely because of wage inflation at the federal, being created by the federal government. And but we do get breaks once in a while on things like optical and dental, life insurance, for example. So it varies by the year. We have some wins and we have some losses. But talking to the employees again about cuts in health care or benefits, we've done that. We've saved money already. We can try again, but I suspect that the unions are going to say, we'll see you in 2 years or 3 years when we reopen the contract.
But you can reduce costs without lowering benefits sometimes if you optimize. Remember, we have that hodgepodge of retiree. We have probably 20 different health plans for our retirees. So
we have many different formulas of copay and contributions that vary by individual for a variety of reasons, and we've tried to smooth some of those out as well. I do want to mention, you did mention about the COVID funding that's coming in, and I don't want us to give the impression that we are going to be swimming in cash. That COVID money does come with restrictions, and we're still trying to figure out where we can spend that money. We're supposed to get $2.8 million, $1.4 million this year, $1.4 million next year. We just had a conference call today with Congresswoman Stevens' office. It looks like we are still limited to spend money that results from a revenue loss, and we're still trying to figure out what constitutes a revenue loss. Ginger Moriarty brought up today at our staff meeting that we're getting dinged for
SADs, right?
for SAD reimbursement.
for what?
SAD, Special Assessment District.
Yeah, all the money that we collected for Litchfield and for General Drive in the current form of the formula that they're using to calculate what your revenue, they're including that, which is ridiculous because it's just a pass-through.
So SAD by the federal government is considered revenue.
Yeah.
There's got to be hundreds of thousands of SADs in the country. Okay. So what is the effect of that?
The effect of that is,
using...
well, if you compare, the formula is comparing our revenue last year to our revenue this year.
So it made it go up.
It's not showing that it was a loss, it's showing it was an increase because we got all this money for the SAD. Right? It doesn't make any sense.
So they're saying you have no revenue
Loss.
They're saying you have no revenue loss, which means that you become very restricted on how you can spend that COVID money.
But in reality, we didn't, even if you took out the SAD, we didn't lose any revenue.
We did.
What was it? A few park fees?
No, it wasn't park fees, it was state reimbursement would have been the biggest one.
You mean the revenue sharing?
We lost state revenue sharing, we lost a significant amount of money in terms of our building permits because there wasn't a lot of building activity going on.
But that's not considered, that's considered revenue, not just tax revenue.
Right.
Okay,
It's not just tax revenue.
All right, so I understand that part, the building fees, but tax revenues didn't go down.
So right now, if we look at that $2.8 million, we may be only able to spend $800,000 on projects. Those projects have to be arguably related to health and wellness. So clearly sidewalks, pathways, bike paths, filling sidewalk gaps, anything that gets people out recreating and walking and breathing and enjoying themselves, that's what they look upon that very favorably. You cannot use the money for tax cuts. You cannot use the money to pay down legacy costs. So we would then have maybe $2 million left over. Under the current rules, and we hope that they change, we can only spend that money on water and sewer.
Because that's the only infrastructure that we can spend it on?
We don't have roads.
Well, it's water infrastructure, it's water, sewer, broadband, so broadband's not an issue for us. But that $2 million is very limited in how we can spend that. Now, Director Fellrath has some plans. We still have some lead pipes in the township that we can replace. But we would have to look at something far more substantial. Water lines, maybe a new sewer line. We have some projects that might satisfy those requirements. We just don't want to give, as much as we like Watua, we know that they do a great job for us, we just don't want to write them a blank check and then put it into their capital improvement plan.
Is there any way to steer it through Wayne County and get them to fix some roads in the township?
Yes, that comes with some strings attached though, because if you give your money to Wayne County, you're trusting them that they're going to do it. That would require very complex intergovernmental agreements. They're not unusual, but they would have to be done. But the county would more than likely take the overhead, what the county calls a chargeback. So they would skim anywhere,
10% or something,
10% or so off the top for their overhead costs.
It would
But
be
that's better
nice.
than giving it away, having to return it to the federal
But we're
government.
not returning anything to the federal government. So we
Or
will
building a
spend-
sewer line that may not be necessary or
It would be
something.
really nice to plant a bug, and this was before all your time, the abomination, what happened in Country Club Village with the roads, and we're still paying for it, and it's falling apart.
Well, I would like to see the county reestablish their local road improvement program, which allowed the SADs to supplement their money with county funds.
Now, that would be one way that we could funnel money through.
Well, that is
Paid a
something that we've
fortune.
been asking.
We paid $4,500 a house, and we got a disaster.
What's it doing? Is it spalling?
Oh, yeah, it's ugly. It's just terrible.
You mean because it's deteriorating already?
Oh, yeah, it was deteriorating before the construction company even left the neighborhood. It was falling apart.
Are we still using that construction company?
No, they were a one-off out of Macomb County. They were terrible. They didn't know what they were doing.
So we've got that money coming. There may be a federal infrastructure plan, whether it's going to be $1 trillion or $2 trillion or $3 trillion, they don't seem to care anymore, but that money would be real infrastructure money that we could spend on sidewalks and roads and things like that. Again, working with the county on roads. Plus, there's going to be earmarks. Congresswoman Stevens has secured $2 million for the widening and improvement of Ridge Road south of 5 Mile in the MITC corridor. That still has to be approved by the U.S. Senate, so we're not,
Going all the way into Canton?
No, just stops at Halyard where Audiant is.
Why would that be a federal thing?
Because it is. They just want to help.
Speaking of Ridge, Wayne County showed up last week and resurfaced Ridge between.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh, good.
How long will it
They
last?
didn't tell us.
Yeah, I thought it's like
I
all
won't
of a
take a
sudden they're
chance
there
on
doing
that.
it.
We were getting phone calls. There's cones in the road. Why? And we were like, I don't know. So they didn't tell us.
Many potholes.
So anyway, I don't know where are we? Are we still on item F5?
Yeah.
I think we are. All right. We're all set? Any more questions? Okay. All righty then. Public comment limited to 3 minutes.
I'd like you to see what you can do about this Beacon Hill Drive and Ann Arbor Trail, if you can get the county to come out and plow this before somebody gets killed out there again. Almost killed.
Are you talking about where the bushes
Yeah,
are
it's
overgrown?
starting to get overgrown again, and we can barely see to get out of there. It's very dangerous.
You can send us an email, and I know you know how to do that.
Okay.
So just send us an email, and then what we'll do is we'll talk to the county, and then we can get an SRN number and either use the county's forestry division, or we might be able even to use our new tree ordinance.
Thank you.
Mary Ann McLaren.
Evening.
Considering how contentious the tree ordinance started out to be, I appreciate all the work and input that you put in by everybody, different residents and citizens, and
The heck?
Hold on.
yes, sir.
Please allow me to resonate the wish of all the township residents saying, we can't thank you and each committee member enough of the Environmental Leadership Commission, a meeting of which I attended last night. You have some very bright, very sensitive people, and you had to move at warp speed with a tree ordinance. And I noticed in the minutes, the supervisor had attended the meeting a month ago, and he said, I implore you to educate the public. That's a lot of work. Even a trustee, as of last Thursday, was unaware that, the tree ordinance is only for developers, period. It does not impact private residences. And it was a little lighthearted fun here earlier tonight. Yes, drive through Lake Point this past summer. You provoked a lot of tree removal and a lot of tree trimming and a lot of good things to upgrade the property values and the sidewalks and everything. But I want to thank your committee. I want to empower you in the future. And I only foresee you strengthening. And I look forward to you coming back to the Board of Trustees and saying that you have a recommendation for us.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we're going to move on to board comments. Trustee Dorshevitz.
They resurfaced Ridge, and I was really happy about that.
Between what roads?
Between Ann Arbor Road and North Territorial.
Yeah.
They put 2 inches down?
I didn't go out and measure. I said,
Well,
hey,
the
is that
thing
2
that,
inches?
that wasn't that on your list, Kurt, where you said, that it said 2 inches and it gave all of these different roads? 2 inches of resurfacing?
They did what do you call it? You know, they
milled it?
Yeah, they milled off.
The mill and fill is what they
Mill and
call
fill,
it. So it's
yeah.
a couple inches, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was on that list or not, Jeremy. I don't think it was.
Yeah.
Was it
You
on
shared
there?
with us a
Yeah.
list of Wayne
Yeah.
County improvements. It was on there.
Yeah, oh, okay, good.
So it was on that list?
Yep.
All right, so 2 inches.
5 Mile and Haggerty, they're supposed to do that still too. So, all set? Okay, John?
Make me last.
Okay. Jerry Vorva, are you still out there?
Yes, and I want to thank Treasurer Clinton for doing a bang-up clerk job. I think it was just fantastic.
Well, it's easy, Jerry. It's an easy job.
Wait, who's talking? who's that talking? I don't think we need that guy anymore.
And so, also, Mr. Supervisor, I think we just recently, just for Trustee Kermey's edification, I think we just recently negotiated a better deal on life insurance. Am I correct? Or
Yes. Yes, we did. Our life insurance payments are going down and our coverage is going up.
Good.
So the coverage is unlimited now, it doesn't decline when you're 65?
That's what I was looking for, because I'm way past it.
We're very sensitive to all ages.
Yeah. Well, John and I will appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. I think Bob has a follow-up.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the Planning Commission had a study session on Thursday of last week, in which we looked at a proposal to develop the Elks property and the parcel, I think it's 33 acres or 36,
Yeah.
something like that. And we all thought it was a really good plan. It was a combination of some apartments and detached condos or townhouse style condos. Toll Brothers was a builder, was a builder of the condos, and the apartment buildings were a company I can't recall the name of it, but it was really an early stage. One of the things that they would do as a result of that is they would connect up to, there's a little street called Furwood, which forms a U around General Drive right off of Ann Arbor Trail. And they would pave that section and make a connector into there. So that would be one of the last remaining dirt roads that would be paved.
They would pave it all the way to Ann Arbor Trail?
Yeah, that's what they promised.
So from using General Drive?
It's, where the north section of General Drive is? Yeah.
And they would pave that all the way to Ann Arbor Trail?
Yeah.
Actually, I'd like to see them pave
That's
that.
mostly industrial use right now.
Yeah.
Factory.
I'd like to see them just pave that entire neighborhood. I think that would be the best thing. So what we've proposed to them is that they create a brownfield plan. It's definitely a brownfield site. And then what we would do is have the brownfield district go all the way from the center line of Ann Arbor Road so that we could pay for the bridge improvements around there, pedestrian access, and then pave that entire neighborhood to the north. I think that would be incredible, and I don't think it would be a huge burden to the developer if it were a brownfield. And we would use the same theory that we've used on 5 Mile, this whole concept of adjacent and contiguous, which is one of the abilities under the brownfield law to attach other properties to your brownfield plan.
Well, maybe we could negotiate something with the developer because we have a huge amount of money in the brownfield plan.
Yes, we do.
So we could help contribute.
It's you never know what can happen during the course of negotiations, so.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Good plan.
Jerry, you're all set?
All set, thank you.
Okay.
Jerry, I miss you and prayers to your wife.
Thank you.
Okay. Mark Clinton.
I'm good.
Mark Clinton's good. Audrey.
I'm good as well.
Audrey's good. Chuck Kermy.
Okay, I have a lot. Let's start with the easy one. There's a $9,000 bill for, it says Pierce 2 engine repair. Was this a collision?
Yes, no, that was a collision.
Yes, no, what?
That was a collision from last year during 2020, during COVID. We just got that, we were just able to get it repaired. The repair facility that did the work didn't have enough employees and they were closed for COVID several times. But we also got the insurance money back from MMRMA. Or not MMRMA.
Did another driver of a vehicle hit you?
No.
Okay, so that was my point. Could we collect from that driver that caused the collision? Okay. All right.
No. It was a single vehicle accident involving the fire truck.
All right, no collision then, no other vehicle. Where are we on the goal for getting some agreed negotiated pricing and suppliers for plumbing, HVAC, and electrical? That was one of our goals, and we thought we could maybe, because we're kind of we are ad hoc right now. Department heads kind of basically call whoever they feel like today. Is there any movement on that, or who's got the ball? Is it
Well, we were looking.
McDonald and Borva? Or?
No, it's McDonald. We were looking at, I don't know if you're on the right track, but I think you're maybe a little bit combining a couple different concepts. I mean, we wanted to put more money and strengthen our fund for unexpected capital improvements. Air conditioner blows up, hole in the roof, busted pipe, something like that. But we also were talking about going out for bids for cleaning services. We're not doing that yet because we want to give the current cleaning service a chance to redeem themselves, and so far they're doing better.
We did have, Jerry, this was your idea, Jerry Vorba,
Yes. Yeah, I believe that we should have, some sort of HVAC and plumbing, service agreement where someone comes out and does the work. The other day, Ken McDonald and Dave Hack were up on the roof with a hose cleaning the chillers, and they were quite dirty. And I just think that you need to have a regular, routine maintenance of those type of things to increase longevity and lower cost when there's to make stuff work better.
Okay, I'm still getting back to getting some preferred suppliers. You have 2 or 3 electricians and you have an agreed price, and that's who you call instead of my brother-in-law this week who was in it, whatever. Anyway.
No, well, we're not doing that.
I know you're not doing that.
We have vendors that we keep using. I think the question is, are they really getting the job done? They're out here a lot, and unfortunately, we bought, I think, lousy equipment to begin with, so we're paying the price for it.
All right. The county, should we have a meeting with the county? The county is not providing the services that the residents of this community are paying in taxes. We have flooding from ditches. We have trees falling in yards. They're not investing in Plymouth Township. What can we do to motivate them? Is our county commissioner can help us? Or, I'm seeing a lot of complaints, and I only see a small bit. I'm sure you see many more than I do. And people are working on projects with the county for sometimes 4 or 5 years to get them done. And then it goes to the next, there's always an excuse. Really, the county has plenty of money, but we need to do something. I don't know, I don't have the answer, but.
We deal with the county every day on a lot of these citizen complaints, anywhere from trees to potholes to roads that are failing. We work very closely with Commissioner Melissa Daub and her staff. Sue Brams and I have a monthly meeting with her to go over the various items that arise in the community. It is a challenge to work with the county. If you'd like, we can certainly have her come in and we can talk to her as our elected representative to the commission.
We need to do something different, because what we're doing is just not getting it done. And in fact, I think they're doing worse now than they were previously. And the excuse should not be money anymore with the Rescue Act. There's plenty of money. Miller Park for budget planning.
Hold on. Let me amplify and support your request. I've thought many times, I'd like to go down to the public meeting of the Wayne County Commission, where Trustee Monahan's father served. I'd like to go to one of those public meetings, and I don't know if we could draw some more attention to providing more county services for Plymouth Township. And talk to Andrew Candravis, talk to Joe Palomera, talk to Tim Killeen. Invite them out here. We have a wonderful freshman county commissioner who we haven't seen in the 9 months that I've been on this board. She's delightful. But if you want to get something done, let's go in public. And sometimes you have to embarrass somebody or bring out issues in the open public at a public Wayne County Commission meeting. And then you ask for lunch with Joe Palomera. You ask for lunch with the deans of the Wayne County Commission and say, damn it, we want services out here. Joe got $9 million for a new bridge to Grosio, and it was in need. But we have a very new Wayne County Commissioner, and she's delightful. She's wonderful. But we don't have the attention of Wayne County. There's no question about that. I think it's delightful. You got your Ridge Road paved. But 5 Mile on Haggerty is a guarantee. Wait. 5 Mile on Haggerty is a guaranteed realignment. That's all I have to say.
Here's the other
Andrew Candravis.
The other political reality is that our current county commission district is Canton and Plymouth. There's 100,000 people in Canton. There's 27,000 people here. So, there's got to do the math on that one. There is a redistricting that's going to happen. The county commission districts will be redrawn sometime later this year, early next year. And I know that Commissioner Terry Marecki, who is from Livonia, is very active in that. And if you'd like, I can have you talk to her as well. You know who she is, and she'd be happy to talk to you about some things.
But a lot of these things are just small, routine, like trimming the tree.
Yeah.
This isn't engineering.
No.
And they love us because I know they love our money.
They love our money.
Because we're shipping a lot of it that way.
Yeah.
So perhaps you would join with me to ask the supervisor to invite Andrew Candravis and Melissa Daub to come to a meeting.
We can certainly do that.
Especially
Please invite
Melissa
them.
Daub.
Okay, anything else?
Yes, for budget preparation, you're going to have the budget.
You said something about Miller Park.
Yeah, that's what I'm sorry.
you're getting-
Miller Park, we need some tree trim and tree removal there. We need to get rid of all of the Chinese elms that are small and crummy. And then the tulip trees need to be raised up in height so that it can be more effective to walk under them or to use them. So we got to put that in our budget, and it may count towards our $60,000 we have to spend for Tree City, right?
We're already there, so that's great.
Tree board. May I be the board liaison on the tree board?
The tree board is just the Environmental Leadership Commission, so I mean, you're free to go to
There's no
their
township
meetings.
board elected official on that?
No.
Okay.
I mean, there's none on the Historic District Commission either. I mean, it was
Jack Dempsey.
Jack Dempsey.
Should we have one? I would be certainly in favor of Chuck.
Well, I mean, you
He
can
knows a
certainly
lot
go
of-
to their meetings. We'd
Is
have
it-
to amend the ordinance and everything to make that happen, so.
He
Anyway.
knows a lot about trees. He knows more about
I
trees.
love
than-
them.
You love them.
He loves trees. Okay, all set? Are you
Yes.
all set? Okay, John Stewart.
I just want to make everybody aware that Martha Trafford, my longtime assistant, and my dear wife, they read all of the emails that come through. From you, and from citizens. They read all of the emails and messages that come through. I mean, I've been married 43 years. My wife has access to my phone. Now, she was rather humorously entertained Thursday morning with your email. I won't say any more. But I would hope we would be sensitive, have a seismographic sensitivity to words. Some emails that she has read, that my two have read, would immediately merit the firing by the chief of police and the fire chief. So when Marianne says there's been a great deal of consternation over the tree ordinance, I don't know why you wanted to abuse yourself, Supervisor, I think, with the way you proposed this. But you accomplished your goal, and I'm the guy who has said that I think you're the best supervisor we've had in 36 years, and you have a wonderful vision. But the steps to get to that goal of your vision, Kevin Bennett and I have discussed.
You can't leave, Bob.
Oh, you stepped down.
You can't leave. I haven't even said anything yet.
Okay.
Come on, man.
So anyway, I just want
Come on, man.
I just want you to be aware. That's all.
All righty.
And some have been crazy, some have been humorous, and some have been obnoxious, and some have been merit the automatic firing that if a chief of police saw a police officer or a fire chief saw one of his firefighters send an email out or something like that, the guy would be fired immediately in another community.
I was under the impression that communications among the board were kind of kept confidential.
Not with me.
Okay.
Unless it's
Good to
litigation,
know.
and unless it's litigation, and unless it's attorney-client privilege, I will abide by that. Attorney-client privilege. I'm a practicing attorney who goes to court every week. But, you know.
Got it.
Okay.
All right, we're all set. Okay, I'm not done yet. I haven't had my comments. So we have no meeting on August 3rd. It would have been a study session night. And then we have no meeting on August 10th. Okay, so this is our summer in-district work period, as we used to say in Lansing. So we will not meet again here until August 24th. And at that meeting, we have some budget amendments from Ginger. We're going to have a joint meeting with the Planning Commission. We'll kick off the meeting with the Planning Commissioners who want to attend. It's not mandatory for them. We will post it though, Laura, as a meeting for the Open Meetings Act purposes. And we'll just talk to the Planning Commission. I think they just want to do a hi, how are you sort of thing. I think that's been done in the past. Kind of what's our shared vision and goals, et cetera.
It's not required meeting for
It would not be. I mean, they've asked for it. I don't know.
Yeah, and
I think it should be required.
Well, I can't compel their attendance.
Yeah, I would be surprised if we don't have 100% in attendance, unless somebody just can't make it. But primarily what the Planning Commission is interested in is just ensuring that we have alignment between the Board of Trustees and the Planning Commission, so.
It's always a good idea.
Yeah.
We have a road rezoning request on Northville Road that should not be controversial. It passed unanimously, I believe, at the Planning Commission level.
You say road rezoning?
It's a variety of homes on Northville Road. This is on the west side of Northville Road between basically
Small
south.
houses in there?
Yeah, south of Independence Village.
What are they doing?
So that was zone multifamily, because the intention was to knock those homes down and put in condos or apartments. But those homeowners are really invested in those properties. They want to expand them, they want to build on them, and right now, they can't because it's a non-conforming use. So they have made the request to go back to single-family residential, correct? All right.
They know
So-
the implications of their property value?
I don't think it has any implication.
Well, it might, because if some developer
I mean,
came
they
in
wanna-
and
they
pay
wanna-
them big bucks for their house and knock it down.
Well, they want to expand on their homes, so. Anyway, we'll talk more about that. We're going to talk about the Huron Valley Ambulance contract. My proposal is to renew that for another year. And then we may have some other items as well. It's still too far out to predict. When we meet again in September, we're going to start on the budget. So by law, we have to have a draft budget to you before September 1st. We're working on that right now. And then starting September 14th, we'll be doing a budget-related presentation every night, every Tuesday, every meeting through November 9th, which is when we would hope to have the final approval of the 22-23 budget.
What date are we going to have the millage setting date for the county? Which meeting?
It doesn't,
You know, it has to be submitted on September 30th.
Yeah.
something like that. And Mark and I will work on that. Okay, that's all I have. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by trustee Stewart, is there a second? Second by trustee Monahan, all those in favor signify by saying aye. We are-
Now I can go?
Now you can go. Now, if you leave, I can put that